Kanye West has just dropped his new album, Donda, and this is a massive moment for the hip-hop community because at one point, no one really thought that this was going to be coming out and the day has
so happy, man. I mean, after all these fucking delays, it's about time that it's here, and 27 songs, man.
A lot of music to eat on, guys. So listen, this is going to be our review reaction of Kanye West's 10th studio album, Donda, and we're actually going to be diving into the album deeper once more content comes out. So if you have not already, please subscribe. And Donda is actually sounding really fucking good off of a first listen. So Lou and I obviously were only able to listen to the album twice. So what were your first expectations and how are you approaching this review?
I just knew that going into this, I had to forget about the whole marketing and the whole rollout for the album and just focus on the music. And that's exactly how we're going to tackle this review because that's all that fucking matters at the end of the day. Forget all the gimmicks, forget all the drama and all the publicity involved with this. It's about the music with Kanye. It's about the art. So the way that we actually review albums on the channel is a bit different, guys. So we actually have different categories. So we start off with artist performance, then we move into content, then we go into features, then we have production, we have replay value, and then an overall rating. And we have a scorecard that you guys can follow through with us and let us know your ratings for each in the comments. And not only that, but instead of using, numerical values and giving albums 10s or 9s, we actually give you guys, our feelings in terms of words. So we have bad, then it moves on to mid, then good, then amazing and perfect. So for each category, we'll be delivering those scores. So right off the bat, man, I mean, in terms of the artist performance, what did you think? And going into this, did you expect this album to sound very similar to the listening parties?
Okay, so to start off with your question about the artist performance, let's start there. I was impressed. I was genuinely impressed because I felt as if on Jesus is King, Kanye could have done a lot more as far as his performance. I understand that it was a gospel album and there was a different vibe to it, but I wanted to hear a lot more rapping from Kanye on Jesus is King, and this is something that I wanted to see on Donda, and which I got. As far as the overall listening experience with Kanye, I do feel as if there's a bit of blemishes. I don't feel as if it was all the way there on, let's say, an album like you saw, like The Life of Pablo or My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, where he's giving you some of his best rapping of his career. I feel as if in certain instances there was room for improvement, but overall, I really did enjoy his performance on this. And I find that he also let artists have their shine on certain songs. So, example, like I'll Go to Jail with, Jay-Z and, Francis and the Lights. Like, I find it was great the way that he started off the track and then also let, Jay-Z come in here. And then the whole point of the song is actually, I'll get to that in the content. So how about you? How did you feel about, his overall performance?
So I think the biggest hurdle that he overcame here, and I have to salute him for, is the fact that he's fucking swearing on this album. Like, he made, again, sort of a gospel album, but he managed to do it his own way and to really keep, I would say, a hip-hop type of delivery overall while sticking somewhat in the gospel realm. So he kind of broke the boundaries of what a hip hop gospel album could be. Not only that, but I did enjoy the fact that you did get hype cadences from him on songs like Off the Grid, but you also got more mellowed out performances on songs like 24. So
super diverse.
Yeah, so it was a good balance between his cadences. I did enjoy that. Apart from that, I do feel like his singing sometimes was off key. That was kind of something that, bothered me at certain times. But overall, I mean, some of his most personal writing, I think that we did get one of his best verses in years on a song like Jesus Lord, where we actually get a solid rhyme scheme from him. But apart from that, the reason why I think it wasn't his greatest artist performance on an album is the fact that if you look at the hooks on songs like Off the Grid or Junior or Remote Control, it's some of the laziest of his entire career. Like, straight up, it's a lot of repetition and nothing that's too moving or, inspiring to me, at least.
Yeah, and as a Kanye fan, you kind of have to sit through this and kind of give it an honest reception because, again, this is off of the first listen, so we got to give this more thought. But I did notice that, too, was sometimes I felt as if he could do more. But, going on to a strong point in the artist performance, I love the way he carried Believe What I Say. This was something that I really wanted to see make this track list because it was kind of like Kanye didn't necessarily go all out with the rapping where he was spazzing off, but he carried that production beautifully because it was really about his melody. It was really about his harmonies. Like, he was going into this verse being super honest, and I loved how clear his voice was on this song. Like, sometimes the deliveries did get a bit unclear at certain points, but and something like Believe What I Say, this is a track that is going to make my rotation for the rest of the year. So I think right off the bat, the artist's performance was really good. You know, there was a lot of strong points for Kanye within the album, but there was also room for improvement on certain aspects. So going into this, you know, you guys leave your rating for artist performance.
It was definitely hard for us to choose between good or amazing. It's kind of in the middle spot where it's kind of great, but yeah, it doesn't get really the amazing score, but overall, still very enjoyable. Let's now move into the content, because I mean, once we got word that this album was going to be named Donda, you automatically have these expectations that it's going to be this concept album that's super personal to Kanye, because he struggled with the loss of his mother, you know, since, you know, she passed away back in 2007. So to see him devote this whole album to her is super inspiring and very touching and personal, I would say. And he does manage to captivate these emotions of wanting to be reconnected with his mother very well. And what's amazing too is that if you go, for example, on the song Jail, Kanye raps, "I know God is in all of us." And that's really poignant, because on the rest of the album, you get pretty much every feature talking about God. And then you also get Travis Scott and Jay-Z, for example, speaking to Donda spiritually about Kanye. So to me, those aspects were fucking phenomenal, and that's something I really enjoyed. What about you?
Yeah, I want to take it to Jail, actually. This is where I was going to start with the content, because the point of the song is actually really fucking sick, and it actually starts with Kanye's chorus, where he's kind of saying, like, you know, I'll probably end up in jail tonight, and then after that, you know, God's going to put up my bail, and that whole thing signifies how, you know, he's not perfect in his road to salvation. He's not perfect as a Christian, but at the end of the day, he knows that God will forgive him for his sins, and this is a theme that he heavily tackles within this whole album. Not only that, but you also get some of the most introspective Kanye, let's say, verses that you've gotten in years. So I'm going to take it to Jesus is Lord. I want to read you out a little bit of some bars that he had put down here. "You've been down so much you don't even know what's upstairs. Suicidal thoughts got you wondering what's up there. And while I introduce you at the party, you say it's up there. Too many pills, so much potions, so much pain, too many emotions, and everything that you do good is just go unnoticed." So it was also him tackling stuff that he felt as if he had a burden of. And I love that, because I could take that and I could reflect that in my own life, where, you know, I question certain things at certain points, and, you know, I'm unsure about certain things about my faith, and how sometimes, you know, I feel as if people look at me and my actions and they forget, you know, all of the good shit that I did. So there's a lot of stuff to relate to on this
100%.
album.
And Jesus Lord is definitely, I think, the most lyrically dense song for Kanye on the entire album. And I love how he's rapping about how, you know, he wants God, and he's asked God to bring his mother back to life, and if not, he wants to be connected with her in the afterlife. And I feel like throughout this whole album, it's really Kanye wanting to bring Donda's presence and kind of, I would say, show and showcase her teachings to the world, and also how his faith is involved in all of that. And I feel like he does succeed at that. Also, the way that he's able to paint this vivid picture of a struggling family, you know, in a rough neighborhood where you have drug addiction, where you have, you know, young pregnancy. Just these themes are very poignant. And he talks about how, you know, how people can easily turn into a statistic, and gang violence and that kind of thing is something that Kanye's always tackled. And on this song, Jesus Lord, he found a way to bring it back, but in a very refreshing way. And that was really moving for me.
Absolutely. I want to also take it to God Breathe It on this, where he's also talking about how God is internal, where you could feel God within yourself, and you understand that it necessarily doesn't have to be seen, but it could be felt. Like, I also loved how he was able to tackle all of this, you know, all of this religious subject matter, and put it into such a stylistic, you know, approach. Like, I also enjoyed the way that he was able to deliver a lot of this content without making it sound corny and without making it sound boring after a 27-song track list. Like, overall, the content was so diverse within the whole track list that it didn't feel like it was an hour and 40-minute album. It really felt concise. It felt like it was to the point, and it's on par with the stuff that he was rapping about, let's say, on The Life of Pablo. Not only that, but I loved his verse on Off the Grid. The way he closed off the song was super super vicious. And, he also gives you some introspection about this whole rollout. He actually talks about why he was wearing the mask on my face. You can't see what I'm finna do. So it closed that suspicion that you and I had when we had first done our first video on Kanye, where he's kind of wearing the mask because he wants people to understand the art. He doesn't want people to, sort of put all this image on him and on his face. They want to remember this Donda era for what it is. And I love that approach to the album.
100%. And the last song that I want to shout out for the content is Come to Life, where Kanye's rapping about actually actualizing your dreams and putting them into reality. And he's saying, like, I should have wrote down my thoughts on paper. You know what I mean? I should have actually penned them down, because if you don't commit to what you believe in, then there's no way that you'll ever achieve it. And I love the motivational aspects of a lot of these songs, and this one really stood out to me. And he also gets super personal about his marriage with Kim and all the complications he's faced. So to see him open up in this grand way was truly special. And I feel like Kanye may have not reinvented himself musically on this album, but he did open up more than he has, I would say, in the last 5 years.
That's for sure. This is a super personal album with a lot of great stuff. And I think that's probably the best part about all of this, is just going through it and gaining that introspection from Kanye. So listen, if you guys haven't gotten it already, the content is amazing. You guys are going to find so many great passages and so many great ideologies that Kanye's presenting on this album. And it sounds so refreshing. It sounds well delivered. But let's move on to the features, because when we found out the amount of features on this new album, Donda, and we knew the type of cast he was going to be putting out here, it was a great aspect to this album. So talking about that, how do you feel about having probably over 25 features on this album?
To me, it just feels like Kanye put this out really for that concrete message of him wanting, not only himself, but the people around him to have a connection to God and to have a connection to a higher being, and also reinstill the values and the teachings of his mother Donda. So for me, this wasn't only Kanye's album. This was hip hop's album. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this featured people from different generations, all connected for one thematic basis, and that was fucking key for me. And not only that, but everybody, for the most part, I would say, truly performed, and it was also cool to get different versions of different songs. I mean, I'm not a fan of Jail Part 2. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that.
The Baby had no place on there for me. But Fivio Foreign and Off the Grid, what the fuck?
Yeah,
man? He was spitting.
I remember when we found out
He
that
was
Fivio.
fucking
Remember when we
spitting,
found
man.
out that Fivio was going to be on this album? We were like, "Fuck, what is he really going to do for Donda?" And then he delivers this vicious second verse on that song and absolutely kills it. He's probably rapping for over a minute and a half throughout that whole song. So shout out to Fivio. He did his thing. I love the Weeknd's performance on Hurricane. I love the way he starts off the song, and I love the way that he was able to actually give sort of like a refreshing intro to Lil Baby, because then Lil Baby comes in, delivers a great verse. I also want to talk about Travis Scott on, I believe it is Praise God, if I'm not mistaken.
Praise God.
Wow, what a fucking verse. And this
It was
guy
good.
is coming with heat.
I'm not sure if it was a new flow or not, but it was still cool. Shout out to Lil Durk on Jonah, to be honest, because I was expecting to not really like this verse too much, and his delivery wasn't great by any means, but this was some of his most personal writing that I've ever seen, and I really felt the emotion through his cadence. And he has a bar where he's pretty much, rapping about his brother having passed away this year and how he's going to be there to look out for the children of his brother who's just passed away. And super emotional, and it's something that I think will go down as one of Lil Durk's most intimate verses that he's put out yet. Apart from that, Young Thug's verse on Remote wasn't my favorite. I feel like it was mumble rap to the highest degree, and I love Young Thug. I just feel like none of his words were really pronounced here, and I couldn't make out anything. And I just feel like Thug didn't really have any concise flow here. Kind of just felt all over the place. But to me, my favorite feature, believe it or not, the more that I'm listening to this, it's kind of a standstill between two of them, all right?
Okay.
First one being the Sunday Service Choir on 24.
That's facts.
That shit is heavenly, man. Like, when every time that I've heard it, if it's from the listening parties or the two listens that we gave the album right now, I literally got goosebumps both times, because the way the choir comes together to deliver that positive message of everything's going to be okay, we're going to get through this, we're going to move on. It's just super inspirational. It's fucking beautiful. And of course, Don Toliver on Moon.
Yeah,
I mean,
Don
that's
Toliver
just,
did it. Yeah, he did his
he
thing on
outdid
that.
himself on Can't Say. Like, he delivered the best hook of his entire career.
I really do think so, and it was beautiful because it wasn't anything crazy when it comes to lyrical content, but
No.
it was beautiful because Moon isn't that complex of a song, but the way that Kid Cudi, carries his humming throughout this and delivers a short but very notable verse on this, and the way that, Don Toliver opens up the song, was really well calculated and really well done. But I want to go to Jay Elec on Jesus Lord. I mean, this is easily one of the best verses of the year, and I'm going to read out a passage from him. My bars is like the pyramid temples of Pakal Votan, as sure as the DOJ confirms Ezekiel's wheel, that could change the world like Jacob with two pieces of steel. So if you guys want a bit of context behind this bar, Ezekiel's wheel is an entity of flying wheels, meant to illustrate the omnipresence and the divine essence of God. And this has been the subject of many conversations about UFOs and, higher spiritual beings. So I love that type of content when you're coming into this album, because Jay Elec did nothing but good on that song and added so much.
It's poetic excellence, man. I mean,
Absolutely.
Jay Electronica is one of the best rappers in the game, and he's literally a secret weapon because not many artists get him as a feature, and he barely puts out any solo work. So any time that you get a verse from him, you have to fucking cherish it. And he has another bar in here where he says, I shape the tectonic plates of the game if I lay one vocal. Fuck.
It's definitely
it's phenomenal, man.
It's definitely great writing.
It's politically poignant and it's culturally relevant, and everything that he's putting down from pen to paper is always super insightful, and that's why Jay Elec has definitely one of the best features and one of the best verses of the whole year, like you were saying. I think we have to speak about Roddy Ricch now. Because
that was listen, how did you feel about it? I'll let you go first. How did you feel
he
about
had the most impressive vibrato on the entire album. The way that he goes from one pitch to the next is fucking amazing. And I think that, in all honesty, maybe has the most cleanest raw vocals on the entire project, but the production just ruined it for me, man.
Yeah, you weren't
the addition of the different organs and the addition of the hard-hitting drums really took away from the essence of the song and the original vibe that I'd gotten from that from the first listening party, where it was kind of just piano. So to me, it totally killed the energy of the track. But nonetheless, Roddy Ricch did his thing and spoke about where he's at in the game and kind of blocking out bad energy. So
yeah,
it was cool.
I also want to talk about Jay-Z on Jail. Like, that was a great verse in my opinion, and people had some gripes with it. I don't think that they were merited because he gets super personal on this. And one thing that we were talking about with Coleman throughout the whole feature list was how Kanye brought in all of these guys that talk about extremely explicit subject matter and got them into this vibe about talking about God and getting super vulnerable with their writing. So someone like Jay-Z, was talking about pray 5 times a day, so many felonies. Like, that's fucking crazy. He's talking to you about how, he's lived through shit and he's done shit and he feels guilty to the point where he has to ask God for forgiveness every single day until it's made up. He's also talking about, biblical references with his relationship with Ye, saying, hold on, wait a second, I have it right here. Oh, fuck, I didn't write down the line exactly, but
I think the gripes that you were talking about that people have with the Jay-Z verse is because it's a super patient flow. Like, he's not rapping at, his hardest. He's not going super quick with the actual delivery, but content matter wise, it was great, and the overall energy and kind of dominating presence he has on every song he's ever rapped on is still present here.
Yeah, Hova and Yeezus like Moses and Jesus. And Hova actually references the Hebrew, how do I pronounce that? Hold on, wait a second. Let me go back to my notes. I don't want to fuck this up. I don't want to say anything that... Yeah, hold on. Yeah, okay, so Hova comes from the Jehovah, which means God in Hebrew, and of course, Ye stems from his nickname Yeezus. So it was cool how he was able to use that line to be able to both put their, let's say, relationships together and show that amends over the years.
Return of the Throne, man.
Absolutely.
If we get that album, I'll be fucking ecstatic because they're showing that they still have top tier chemistry. I don't think it's one of their best songs together, but it's still great, and I definitely enjoyed it. So overall, I mean, didn't like Lil Yachty's feature too much. So that kind of takes away a few points for me personally. But overall, I think everybody really carried their weight and really showed what it means and what you have to do to deserve a spot on a Kanye West album.
Absolutely.
So for that reason, we'll give it an amazing rating. As always, the feature list was stacked here and everybody showed out. But let's now move on to a major component of this album, and that's actually the production. And I feel like, you know, especially starting off with the listening parties, the main narrative was that similar to The Life of Pablo, this album really incorporates a lot of different sonic elements from past Kanye West albums. So do you feel like that was the case here?
Absolutely, but I believe there is some consistency throughout the production and the track list, especially, let's say, with the organs. You know, like that was a major part about this production, and you had gotten it on plenty of tracks, and I'm going to go through it. Hold on. Like, example, on a song like 24, where, you know, let's say the Sunday service choir is actually a part of the actual production itself, was fucking beautiful.
Blended and nice.
And I loved how that was going through with it. Not only that, but I loved the distorted 808s. I believe it was on
Junia, where you had the organs creeping in the background.
Yeah, like how they were perfectly blended together. Not only that,
great.
but you also had gotten some sort of background vocals with it. So that was really nice. I also love the engineering on this album because there's so many different things going on within the track list, yet you feel like you're never really confused going through it. It feels really concise. It feels as if it's a great listen from start to finish. And, you know, with all of the diversity within the production, within the track list, there's still that coherent factor to it, which I do enjoy, and, you know, I find myself gravitating towards. So overall, name your top 3 beats. Let's go.
My top 3 beats. One that I want to talk about is definitely Moon, because Mike Dean went crazy as he gives us these very delicate electric guitar strings, and it just creates this dreamy atmosphere as you get Don Toliver's vocals seeping through, and that was a huge standout for me. Another one has to be the production on Heaven and Hell, which is one of my absolute favorites on this whole fucking album, just because this is the innovative production that I want to hear from Kanye on Donda. This is the power of Donda. You know what I mean? I feel like those beats are kind of connected because you have this amazing build-up and you get a beat drop. And I feel like a crazy beat drop is something that songs like, you know, God Breathed on This were missing, to be honest. And the progression of the beat was phenomenal. You also have a sample from a 1975 song called Heaven and Hell on Earth. And you also get these nice dark synths at the end. And shout out to Boogs the Beast and 88 Keys for that production. Phenomenal. Another great beat, of course, was on Jail, where you had this rock and roll flavor.
I also feel as if I was watching Jaws when I was going through the start of that song where you have the da-da and like it continues going with it. Where that was really cool because like it kind of, you know, edges you into the song. And then God Breathed on This again. Like I love, you know, the 2 minutes they took at the end of that track to really carry that production, because I love the background vocals to that song. They were really fucking well done. And then you also have some sort of drill influence on a song like Off the Grid, where, you know, there's those similar drum patterns and those similar 808s that you might find on, let's say, a Pop Smoke song. And then you have this haunting melody in the back that really gets you into the overall darkness of the track, and it's a really good breath of fresh air for it. So overall, I feel as if that the production on the album really made this album feel more cinematic. It carried you into a world of different ideologies and allowed you to sit with this album. So do you feel as if the production on this album helped you get through this album, especially that it's such a long track list?
Oh, definitely, because a lot of the beats were definitely like super refreshing. So, I mean, if you look at, let's say, certain outros, for example, like on I Know God Breathed on This, or which I think now it's shortened to God Breathed.
God Breathed on This. At least that's what I had from the track list.
Yeah, but anyways, like the outro at the end of that was cool. So shout out to Mike Dean also, because the mixing, the mastering sounded flawless. And if you look at how it started off sounding from the first listening parties to where it's at now, it sounds super polished, super clean. So overall, I think we have to give this an amazing rating once again.
Absolutely. And not only that, but I want to shout out the 808s and the drum pattern on Praise God, because I was afraid that they were going to change the production from the second and third listening party, because Praise God had changed from the first to the second and third. So I was really happy that they kept the best version of the production for that, because I find, like, you know, just the energy was super explosive. Travis Scott came in, and then there was also some time changes within the song where Baby Keem comes in and kind of slows down the song and then picks it back up. Like, it just felt really good and refreshing.
Another standout actually is New Again, where you have these flashy synths that remind me of Graduation.
Flashing lights, to be exact.
Exactly. You know? Yeah, he kind of incorporated a lot of sounds from previous albums while having that gospel sound at its core. So Nothing innovative, I would say, musically from Kanye here, but a lot of beautiful sounds that created a really amazing a soundscape overall.
Absolutely. You feel like you're going into a different universe when listening to this album. But let's talk about the instant replay, because this is a heavy album. And right off the bat, I'm going to start my part off by saying that I feel as if I need to give this album more time, because it's a long track list. There's a lot of different features. There's a lot of content to go through. And you're going to find yourself being like, okay, what the fuck did he just say? And you want to go back to the track. Or you're going to be like, oh wow, I really love how that production played into that song. Let me go back and let me see how it fits in now. Or maybe, hey, was that from the second or third listening party? Okay, let me go confirm. So I feel as if with all of the loose ends within this project, I'm going to have to take months out of my time to be able to just finally get a coherent vision for myself when listening to the project.
I'm going to be bumping this for, at least a solid year straight, just because, like you said, number one, super long track list, which did not bore me at all. And to get a track list as long as 27 songs in 2021 and be captivated from start to finish, that's super rare for me nowadays. And not only that, but like you were saying, everything that Kanye is rapping about is important. It's valuable stuff. It's a lot of insight on his life. He's talking about wanting to be spiritually reconnected with his mother, and that's something that really stands out as the main theme, I would say, throughout the project. So kind of looking in at the certain intricacies that bring that message home is going to be really special. Of course, the amazing features keep the track list refreshing, so that's going to demand repeat listenings. And also, the idea that the album is kind of divided into 3 acts. It's kind of something that we saw being posted during the rollout of the album, where you had Casey drawing up Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I want to kind of go back and see how it's structured
and how it transitioned,
and what each act kind of represents. Not only that, but I mean, you have the Donda chant as the intro. Then you get on the title track Donda a vocal passage from her. So I want to see how those play into the theme of the album, and also if those are what divides the different sections of the album. So to me, the instant replay was perfect. And as any Kanye album, the music will live on forever, because think about pretty much Kanye's whole catalog and how all of those projects are still being listened to till this day.
Absolutely. And this is a standout for me, because there's no one that's making projects like this anymore. Like you have to go back and you really have to listen to this, and you have to really give it time and attention. So yes, the instant replay is perfect. No doubt you're going to be finding yourself going through this album and wanting to go back for more, because there's so much to take out of it. But overall, let's get to the thoughts now, because this is a big album. And overall, I feel as if, yes, there are some gripes I have with it, but overall, man, it was a great fucking listen.
This was a great fucking experience, and I mean, it kind of had to be for how much hype was built up around it. And I do love the fact that Kanye was so collaborative, as he's always been throughout his entire career. But he definitely, at certain points, lets the features send the message and do the talking for him pretty much. On a song like Moon, for example, he doesn't even have a verse, and that was
even
definitely
on Praise God, there was only Baby Keem and Travis Scott.
Exactly. So letting himself and his collaborators get that message across was great. I think production wise, a lot of great sounds. I think that a lot of people will kind of see what he did on a song like Heaven and Hell and want to push for that same kind of bar where the production progresses, it develops, it starts off as something, turns into something else. So overall, I got to give it more listens to really have a fully fleshed opinion. But I'm really fucking liking it, and I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would. To
Absolutely.
be honest.
This is a great track list. I feel as if Kanye delivered this album in a great way. As I said, there was a bit of gripes with his performance, but regardless, it didn't really take away from the overall vibe of the album. Then if you want to start talking about the content matter, you have really intricate verses from guys like Jay Alec and Jay-Z. Then if you want to talk about maybe vocal performances, you got Don Toliver there, and you got Kid Cudi humming. Then if you want to talk about the overall vibe and experience, you have an hour 40 minutes of just pure Kanye, and then you're gonna have to go dive into that. You want to talk about the production, keeps the track list super refreshing and keeps you engaged throughout all of it with great cinematic value.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
sorry, finish your thought.
No, and then I was just gonna say, as far as the replay value goes, this is gonna be my rotation for the next year or so.
Yeah. So do you think, as of right now, I know it's early on, that this is gonna age, as one of Kanye's best albums?
I don't know. It's too soon to say, but I'm gonna keep my word in saying that I feel as if The Life of Pablo is a better project. Graduation, My Beautiful Dark
It's not
Twisted
cracking
Fantasy,
that top 5 for me.
Late Registration, The College Dropout. Those are too iconic to my listening. So obviously I got to give it more time to breathe. But overall,
A return to form for Kanye.
It is a return to form, and that's why I think we're gonna give it an amazing rating. Overall, this project is amazing, and you're gonna find yourself being wowed by so many moments throughout the track list. The fact that he was able to have 27 tracks on an album and carry it in such a refreshing way where you're not getting bored is a huge standout for me. And overall, I just feel as if everyone did their part on this project.
They did, and this is going to be a project that ages for a long time. This moment in time, the rollout, the actual release, this will never be forgotten. And I do feel like the way that he brought everyone together on this track list to really bring home this theme was fucking special, and this album is not going to be forgotten for a long time. So guys, if you enjoyed this review, let us know in the comments. Smash the like button. It helps us get across to more viewers. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.